profession. I seek the refuge by Allah from all the Satans, the human and the jinn. May Allah send the peace and blessing on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his wives, his companions, and all his followers till the day of judgment. Well, it was meant to be a kind of a lecture, okay? How to conduct the message of the da'wah in English language, okay? Mainly we want to formulate all the previous knowledge that we have already, okay? How to conduct it in English language. And this is mostly one of the most difficult missions for someone who's trying to make a da'wah for other foreigners, okay? Because mainly the religious language is a very high level language, you understand? And if you open up the Quran, you might find some vocabularies which is considered to be from the Old English, which you may find a bit difficult for you. But in general, you may need just the basic knowledge of English in how to conduct some of the knowledge, like in the miracles of the Quran and the Sunnah, how to say it in a very simple language. You don't need to be sophisticated or use the Shakespeare language. How to start a discussion and how to start to argue and how to read the Quran and how to read even the Bible and understand some of the old vocabularies. So mainly I don't know how we would manage this course. I would like to manage it as an interactive course between me and the attendees. Would you choose what kind of materials or what do you want from me in this course? But my thinking was the best way and the fastest way to learn something rather than language or any other profession is just to feel excited about it. Okay? You have to feel excited about what you're learning. So if you're just sitting and you're not feeling that you're interacting with your professor or with the one who gives you the material, I think the rate of learning would be not so fast. Okay? So I've choose some of the issues regarding Islam, which may be interesting for you to know about. Okay? And in the same time, it will stimulate your mind to grab some of the vocabularies, grab some of the common sentences which you may conduct to the others. Mainly, as a Muslim, you have two missions toward the others. Okay, toward Allah, you have your mission of praying, pilgrimage, of getting married if you can, okay, of fasting, and so on and so on. But you have two other missions toward the Muslims and toward the non-Muslims. For instance, toward the Muslims, what your mission do you have to do? You. Yes, you. You know, you. Huh. Toward the Muslims, what mission do you have to do? They know Islam already, they are Muslims. Yeah. What do you think? Do you have an answer? What do you have to do toward the Muslims? Yeah? Okay, so toward non-Muslims, what do you have to do? To be a perfect model for others. What else? Do you know? Okay. Mainly, some of the fuqaha, they didn't generalize the word da'wah for Muslims and non-Muslims. They said, okay.
To show others how Islam is perfect.
Well,
and how it contains everything about life,
exactly.
About manners.
But mainly in definition, they said that the definition da'wah is literally translated as invitation, to invite someone for something. Okay, da'wah is just meant to be for the non-Muslims. When you say I'm going to make a da'wah, that means that you're going to ask non-Muslims for Islam. But for Muslims, you have been asked for something called enjoining the good, forbid the evil. Al-amr bil-ma'ruf and nahy al-munkar. So take care about both definitions, okay? Because amr bil-ma'ruf, nahy al-munkar is something dedicated for your fellow Muslims, okay? But the da'wah is for the non-Muslims. So one of the most important skills that you have to learn about the da'wah or to know about the da'wah is the general communication skills. Because this is the main entrance to enter the heart of somebody. Why? Because I remember one American said from US, he converted to Islam for many years. He said, I've never met a people in my life that speak 100% logic as Muslims. in the whole course of discussion, you find them speaking in a logic after logic. They never drift in some myth or something. Okay, so you got the truth, you got the knowledge. You don't have to to camouflage it, or you say, for instance, I remember an imam in mosque in Poland. He told me, "Did you meet this non-Muslim guy who came to introduce you to Islam?" I said yes. And what did you do with him? I told him I gave him the Quran. I told him, why did you do so? He wouldn't understand him. We have to begin with him with some other books that explain him some of the important or some, maybe he thinks some hilarious things that he might find in the Quran and misunderstand it. But subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ, when the Quran came to him, it's revealed to him, he just addressed it to the people as it is. So don't try, because this is a mistake I used to do and many people used to do, is to think that you have a non-perfect merchandise. And you think when you speak about, if you first open up the Quran with a non-Muslim and you start to read about verses about the jihad, you might find yourself some embarrassed or something. No, just address it that as it is. Because the one who created this man is the one who created the Quran. Okay? Okay, we don't say it's the Quran is created, but anyway. Okay. Other thing that's very important, also I have been learning that you have to, the life of the Muslim as an individual and as in a community, you must divide it in two parts, the Meccan part and the Medina part. What does it mean? I remember also it was in Poland as well. We addressed a lecture about the jihad, the concept of jihad, okay? Explaining the jihad, the process and all this stuff for 2 hours. And after the lecture, the imam of the mosque, he told me, hey, be careful. Be careful because you have been exceeding so much in some of the explanation about the Bible and others. Represent yourself in the Meccan period. You don't have the tools, you don't have the strength. Of course I was angry, and how come you're just a weak imam that you want to just get your salary by the end of the month, but you're not caring about spreading the religion. But after a while, I realized that he was a wisdom. And you have to project the life of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ in our life today. How? In the Meccan period, Prophet ﷺ just had the logic, the Quran, okay? He didn't have any kind of strength, okay? And this is a bit similar to our situation now. You just have the truth. You don't have the material strength, okay? So choose your subject. This is what I want to address to you. Choose your subject when you speak with someone, okay? For instance, there are many things in the fiqh of al-Maliki or Ibn Hazm or so whatever. If you just read it out and speak it out to the people, they will think you're crazy. Like, for instance, the Quran, قاتلوا الذين يلونكم من الكفار. This is an explicit definition that we have to be in order of jihad with our neighbors of the kuffar if they prevent the message, and this is true and this has happened. But we can't express it so clearly for the time being. Okay, so nowadays we are in the Meccan period. Okay, just speak with the logic, with the truth. Choose your subjects. Don't go into deep arguments, because finally the one who's arguing, because mainly I told Amr the last time, you will meet 3 types of people, foreigners. First type is representing about, say, 20%. They have no knowledge about Islam, nothing about Islam. They just know the word about Islam. They just know the word, that something is called Islam. And about 30%, they know the common 10 knowledge about Islam, which is, you have a polygamy in Islam, you can marry 4 or maybe more. You have invaded the lands of the European and the Chinese by force. You have converted people by sword. What else of misconception do you have about Islam? Do you know? Who said she has some friends, foreigners? You? What other misconception do you have about Islam? About jihad, for instance? About women, right? What else?
Polygamy.
Polygamy?
That Prophet Muhammad was standing on kids.
The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he married to a girl. They think that she was under the puberty age. Okay, what else? No, I can't hear you. The niqab, the veil of the woman. They think that the veil of the woman is against the human rights.
It's not used by swords.
that Islam has been spreaded by source. Okay, so this is the other 30% you will meet a lot. You know, some people just know some 10 sentences about Islam that they are being repeated in the propaganda. And the terrorism in general. The terrorism. Sorry, it's about 70%. But the last 10% you will meet a people. Seriously, they're expert in Islam. They've spent a huge portion of their life studying Islam. But subhanallah, they have, you know, barran ala qulubim. They have a big layer of rust on their hearts. Okay, that they read the Islam by their mind. They have a better knowledge than me, than all of you, but they refuse Islam, and they use this knowledge to fight Islam and to find the small holes and gaps that can enter to the people that they might not have the knowledge to dismiss the kind of religion to them. So these kind of people, be aware from them, because they will enter with you in a long discussions. They will speak with you a lot, but in an aim that just to make some misconceptions even to you. Okay, so take care from the last period. Okay, so one of the most important questions you might be faced by non-Muslims, in which you talk with them daily or whatever, or your friends, they might get convinced of Islam, okay, as a religion revealed by God. Because whoever give you his hearing to listen, he will be convinced by mine. Because in Islam, as some of the tabi'in say, al-iman huwa ma waqara fil qalb wa saddaqahu al-amal. And in some other narrations say asaddaqahu al-aql, which means that the belief of God, of anything, depends on two things. You have to believe its logic, you have to get the proof its logic is something true, and then it has to penetrate your heart. Sometimes it may penetrate your heart before it penetrates your mind, and it happened to many of the Sahaba, and sometimes vice versa. It comes to the mind, yes, it's very logic. I came to the lecture of Mr. الإعجاز العلمي of the America of the Quran, and it looks very logic to me. So I'm waiting. The second step is to penetrate my heart. Okay, so some of the people, once the Islam penetrate their minds, okay, they still need to penetrate their hearts. Okay, they say, okay, it's logic, it's good, everything is okay. But the last question I have, you say that Islam or the Quran say that the religion or the Islam or the Prophet ﷺ is nur, right? We say what? Allahu nur as-samawati wal ard, right? لِيُخْرِجَهُمْ مِنْ, from the darkness to the light. So, good. So Islam is light, and we are supposed to be the 1.5 billion are the reflection of that light, right? Where is this reflection? We just see darkness. What did you give to your societies, or to the human revolution of industry, or what did you give to the science or to the literature? What's your situation nowadays, Muslims? If it's really the perfect book, if this is the perfect religion, which will bring you to the happiness in the dunya and in the hereafter, where is the effect? And this is a very important question. Where is the effect? What do you think? You. Anyone has an answer? What?
Not good Muslims.
We are not a good Muslims. So where have been the good Muslims? Tell me where can I find them? They went. So the religion is dead. So now we are bad Muslims. So we don't reflect the light. And what's coming after? Also are dead?
That we have to try to start.
We give a lot to stop them.
Excuse me?
We give a lot to the science, but we stop them.
Now we got tired. Does anyone have an answer?
I think that you should not judge. We are now at the down
slope of
down slope of our civilization.
Yes.
At one time we were high, and we were adding to the society and to every field in the science. Maybe nowadays we want not to judge the Islam. The Muslims themselves are not a reflection, because we are knowing that we are not applying the Islam as it should be applied.
Does anyone have another answer other than this perfect answer? Does anyone from the girls? By the way, the girls are very important. They are educating. One girl can educate 4 men like you, child.
For me, I believe that we must separate people from religion.
The people from religion.
Yes.
Separate. So
Yes, to concentrate.
So you want to say put a separation between the ideology itself and the people who
Yes.
put it into
He has to concentrate on
application.
religion itself.
Exactly. So,
Who should do this?
hmm?
Who should do this?
Should do what?
Separate everything. Separate Muslims and Islamics.
Why separate? Why we have to separate? We don't have to separate. The problem is that we are just praying and leaving our religion in the mosque, and then when we go out, we are different people.
But
This is the problem.
think of me as a non-Muslim, for instance, and ask me about this. I don't care about all of this. You tell me this is the best ever religion, and the religion that will last till the day of judgment. The religion was full of scientific miracles. The religion that's more than, I think, 300 ayah full of science, contemplate, think, whatever. Where is this? I can't see this nowadays.
We didn't learn it, neither at school nor from the parents, because they are not educated.
So is it the problem of Islam or Muslims?
No, Muslim, of course.
Of Muslims, of course. Okay. So one part of the answering of the
That's
question.
how we see it.
Hmm?
That's how we see it.
Yes.
It's Muslim problem. But
Yeah.
they don't see this.
Yeah.
They think that it's Islam.
Yeah.
It puts a veil in your head so
Okay.
you can do nothing.
So my opinion. Oh, yes.
saving us from darkness, from this religion is saving us from darkness.
This is true.
If we
Okay,
would do-
so one part of this, my opinion in a kind of answer of this, that when we speak about the community of Muslims, we have to put them into baskets, as we say, okay? One representing the individuals and other the community. When you judge the Christians or judge the Buddhism or whatever, judge them as the individuals, Muhammad, Ahmad, how they are dealing, how they are good profession in their work, they are dealing with their wives or good and this, and then judge the community, the whole state, okay? Regarding the individuals, no, we still have a very good Muslims. We have a Muslim that they won Nobel Prizes. We have a Muslim that are working in NASA. We have a Muslim that they have a great contribution in all the field of science. They say that if all the Muslims, doctors in the United States decided to quit the job tomorrow, United States, the medical section will be in crisis, okay? So as for individuals, we still have our contribution as a Muslims, and this you can see every day. But regarding the community, as Muhammad said, as Samir said, in the history of all the nations, you may represent it as a sine wave. Go to the Romans, go to the Persian, go to the Chinese, go to the 7,000 years of pharaonic history. We had this sine slope. We are up and down, up and down. We are in the down period now. Okay, so this is a good answer that satisfies the one who asking. But the next question, okay, so you have your up and down, right? As a Muslim, as every nation, okay. But excuse me, for 14th century, what was your ups? Where was your ups? In science, in politics, in any kind of human enriching resources. Where is your ups? We read your history, we see your history in the television. You're gonna speak with me about the politics. It was all full of massacres. All the books speak about what the Abbasiyin did and the Umayyin. We see the great fitna that happened between the Sahaba. We see in Andalusia, the conspiracy was happening every day. The muluk al-tawa'if, whatever. So where is about politics? What about the science? What did you add to the science? Except some few scientists or someone. What did you add to the science? What did you add to the literature? How can you answer this? Okay, you say now we are in our down slope, okay? For about 200, 300 years, okay? Okay, so for 10 centuries, where is your ups? And this is the main focus on our course for the time being. If we don't have time, we may continue with this. Where is your ups? Where was your ups?
Add on to the science, this camera is manufactured by Arabic.
For instance,
Ibn al-Haytham was the first one to use the theory behind the discovery of this camera.
exactly. What
And
else?
also for the medicine, I think.
Okay, see, this is respected with respect to the optics. Okay, other field of science. Do you know any good invention the Muslim did? Any good discoveries the Muslim did?
For the level of the medicine, maybe at the level of the medicine, the book of Ibn Sina,
Avicenna.
القانون. I think this was the reference for the medicines.
The main source for 500
for a
years.
very short
Exactly.
time, and also I think someone was behind the inventions of most of the surgical instruments.
Bzahraء.
I think is Bzahraء, yes. So I think.
So do you think, as overall, Muslim civilization that extended from northern France till the borders of China for 10 centuries, do you think they contributed much in the human civilization, the modern human civilization? Do you think?
I think our, as we view now, the Western, as they are the leading in the science, at this time the Arabs were viewed as they are the reference for the science.
Okay.
So I think this...
Okay. So, do you believe that we contributed in science and human modern civilization? You don't believe?
We just started, but we didn't continue.
So, for how much percentage did we share by knowledge and by references to the Industrial Revolution? Because mainly, by the way, in the, as they say, Al-Alam al-Qadim, the Anglo-Saxon, before the discovery of the two Americas, the main predominant culture and civilization was the Muslim one and the European one. Okay, those were the main two cultures existed at that time. So, by how much percentage do you think we shared in the giving the knowledge to the Industrial Revolution for the modern Europe? By how much percentage? In science, in politics, in literature, in human rights?
If you see the start, very important, but we have to continue. The problem is that we not continue.
No, my question you didn't understand. You didn't understand. For instance, the Athens, the Muslims started to translate the work of the Athens when they started their, as we say, the science revolution. So the Athens contributed with some of the knowledge. So nowadays the Europeans say, or the Americans say, you have no contribution to our modern life. You said something like the camera and what else. So do you think in all the fields of life, how much percentage we share? 10%, 20%, 30%? Okay. When you start to study the history of Muslims with respect to applied science, natural science, politics, the human rights, and so whatever, you will start to believe that we had a contribution, that we contributed by somehow. But when you start to digging into this science more, wallahi, you would be surprised that you would find that it's not, you can't name it anymore a contribution, but forming the whole issue. Why? This is all how it started. This is the common belief of some of the researchers now, that they speak about the Greeks, the period of the Greek, there was some good knowledge and good science, and then the Romans, and then came the Dark Age. The Dark Age. They meant to name it the Dark Age, which extended about 10 centuries, from the 5th century till the 16th century. And this is the period where the Muslims were on the upslope, okay? But they pretend that this was the Dark Age. But what you can find here is the Renaissance and the Industrial Revolution. You see the arrow, how it spikes so high, and this is impossible to happen. Why? Because Muslims, after the Prophet ﷺ death, they took the ideology of Quran. As the one who said the hadith, تفكر ساعة خير من عبادة ألف ساعة. That they understood the ideology of the Quran. The Quran always speak about contemplation, thinking, the stars and so whatever. So they started to acquire science. They realized that the best ibadah, the best worshipping you would do for Allah is science. That's why we have a marvelous story about a scientist, I don't remember his name, he died while he was reading. He was reading in the street till a horse hit him and dies. Understand? Some of the other scientists, you would enter his home, you can't find a place to sit down because it's full of books. So they acquired the science in addition with a blessing from Allah in their time. Some of the scientists, I think Ibn al-Jawzi, they said, when they calculated how many books he wrote throughout his life, they found out that he has to write 40 pages every day. Not reading, writing 40 pages every day. SubhanAllah, it's a miracle. So, when the Khilafah of Umayyads started and the situation of Islamic Ummah became stable, it was the real spark of the knowledge and acquiring the knowledge for Islamic Ummah. And how it started? About for 80 years it started with translation. When you go to school, you don't invent anything. When you go to school of engineering or medicine, you don't do anything. You just acquire the accumulated knowledges, you understand? You just read what the others did. and you translate what the other did into your language to transfer it to other. And this process takes about from 80 to 100 years, almost 100 years, okay? And then what comes after is you start to do your own. You start for instance, the Muslims started to translate the Aristotle books, the Aristo books, the Aflatun books, and then they started to add their own after they translated. So the process of getting good in the knowledge and in the science, it takes time. But what the Europeans and what some of the Orientalists, and regarding the Orientalists, if you want to understand this matter, there is a book for Edward Said, if you know him, a wonderful book called Orientalism. It's better to get it in Arabic because the English is very complicated. But it's a perfect book, show you how many lies has been said about Arabs and Muslim in this book. So, to pretend, when you speak to someone, to pretend that just in the 16th century, suddenly, you came to the Industrial Revolution, you started to have scientists, you started to have Isaac Newton, Copernicus, with this huge knowledge, huge classification of book, it's impossible. Sure, there was something before, gave them the feed of all this knowledge, okay? And this is what they call the Dark Age. This was not the Dark Age, it was the Golden Age, not just for the Muslim, but for the human civilization. We will just have a fast glances, okay, about what the Muslims did at this time. Because we represent the 16th century, I represent it as the biggest ever theft has been happened in the human history. What does it mean? You understand? Did you understand? The 16th century was the embodiment of the biggest ever theft in the human history. كانت أكبر سرقة حصلت في التاريخ من بعد سقوط القرطبة في الأندلس وبداية عصرنا. Why? Many huge resources of the books has been stolen, okay, to the European libraries. And as they say in the Vatican, they still have many of them, okay, for instance. And they started to attribute the science of the Muslims to themselves. And we will see now, for instance, some examples. I want to just go for this. This is the most important example here. This is Isaac Newton. When Isaac Newton lived, in which century? No, in which century?
Maybe, I think 15th century. 16th, 18th,
17th century. So he's one of the scholars of the Industrial Revolution and the Renaissance, okay? And what's he famous of? What's the fame of Isaac Newton? The gravity law and the three law of motions, okay? Okay, let's just give a glance on the first law of motion. The first law, would you read?
First law of motion, in the absence of force, a body either is at rest or moves in a straight line with constant speed.
This is what Isaac Newton said in the 17th century. So read what Avicenna said in the 15th or 14th century. What did he say?
You know, if the object is left unaffected by external influence, it remains as it is.
Do you find any similarity? It's 100% the same. Read the next one. Read the next one. You have a loud voice? You have a loud voice. You're not shouting, but you have a loud voice.
Second law of motion, a body is experiencing a force of experiences and accelerated related to F by F equal infinity.
Okay, so for literature students, if anybody has a force, has a mass, okay, like me, 90 kilograms, and have an acceleration, I'm running in an exceeding acceleration, so we'll have the coefficient of the multiplication between both will give me the force. And this is the most important law of physics for any kind of students, even in the school or in the university. Read what Hibatullah ibn Malka al-Baghdadi said in the 13th century. The strongest power moves fast and takes a short time. It means the acceleration. The stronger the power, the faster the power, and the shorter the time. If the power doesn't decrease, the speed doesn't decrease either. In chapter 14, entitled The Vacuum, he made a chapter called The Vacuum, He pointed out that the faster the speed, the stronger the power. The stronger the power, the push the object, the faster the speed of the object move. And the shorter the time spent for covering the distance. This is the second law of motion. It's mentioned before the birth of Isaac Newton with about 300 or 400 years. The last law of motion, it says every action has a reaction which is equal in magnitude in opposite direction. كل فعل له رد فعل إن شاء الله. It has mentioned by the three scientists that lived in separate places in separate areas, but all of them not less than 300 years before Isaac Newton. كما طلاب بن مكة البغدادي إمام فخر الدين الرازي ابن الهيثم. What's more about gravity? What did the Muslims say about gravity before Isaac Newton's birth? They said, he asserted that the earth attracts the bodies above it toward its center. No one said this from the Greeks or from the Egyptians. No one said this before. This is the first time said the Muslim. Whatever is beneath the earth is as stable as whatever is above it. This object is like a magnet. This is a very important thing, like a magnet. So, we have two options now here. Whether Isaac Newton has got this knowledge by his own work, subhanAllah, 4 laws he is discovered by himself, or maybe he took it from them, you know, he just took it from them and it was the base of his other research. But in the second option, if he seriously, our first option, if he seriously, this was his research, and this was the Muslim research, but at the end, at least in the Muslims' school, in our books, to whom we have to attribute this? To whom? To those Muslims or to Isaac Newton? To the Muslims. But if he stole it, sure we have to attribute to the Muslims. So in both cases, you have to attribute the discovery to the first one who, like Armstrong, the first one stepped on the moon. So it's attributed to him. He's the first one who stepped on the moon. There are many others, but he's the first one. He's a pioneer. Understand? And this is unfortunately a knowledge that would make lots of the Muslims get surprised. Wow, did they do this? Subhanallah. So what about the non-Muslim? So imagine this is the first, because I don't have many time, this is the first subject I talked with you that Isaac Newton's works was attributed to Muslims. So what do you think about other field of science that we have? We have, the last thing I want to say now when we continue the next time. If you want to feel the impact of a civilization or culture, see it in the language. For instance, what's the predominant language now on the earth now? It's the English language. It's the language of science, okay? And that's why the other language would just replace some of the vocabularies with this language. For instance, if you study in هندسة الإلكترونيات, the word electronic is not Arabic language. It's a word that's driven from electronics, for instance. And you would find this in the many vocabularies. So this is a great sign that the language of science is English. And you have to say it so explicitly and clearly. Okay, so let's go back in the future, in the Dark Age. And why I name it now the Dark Age? Because it's dark from our eyes. We didn't read about it. We don't know what happened about it. So, let's see the effect of the Arabic language to the science nowadays, to the English language of the science. And this would be very clearly to anyone who debate with you. You know what's mean debate? You get that? Debate with you that the Arabs or the Muslims didn't add anything to science. Before you speak with him, tell him, what's the main word of science when you start? Science is علم. This word is taken from Arabic mainly. شوف أول كلمة علم لسه ما دخلش حاجة. علم is taken from Arabic by Latin. It's called alumnus. And we study Spanish, it's called alumno. Aluminus, alumno, عالم, متعلم, from علم. So before you start the discussion, the main word of science is taken from Arabic. That's mean that those people, they didn't have any glance of science before the Muslims start to introduce it. Okay? Like they said, the camera came from Qumra, the experiment of Ibn al-Haytham, of the Rome and the focal length. You know it? You know it? For instance, something very simple like, but I don't have the resource of this. The college is taken from the word kulliyat, which has been written in Ibn Khaldun, for instance. Alchemy. The soap. What does mean the soap? Sabun. Who took it from whom? The Arabs took it from the English, or the English took it from the Arabs? Exactly. Before the Crusades, they didn't know how to wash themselves. One of the narrators said, I went to Europe. It's the most stinky smell you would ever smell in your life. People, they don't take a shower for about a month or two, understand? So they took the soup from them, for us. The garden, the idea of the garden, حدائق, or garden, it has been taken from the Muslim lands. It was never been known that you can make a garden in your home. But the Muslim took it by the inspiration of the Quran. Jannat in Tajri. So, just to not be so long with this, we have, for instance, in the aquatic science, the design of this hemisphere was the leading process to echo the sound in a vast area. And this is what has been discovered recently by Harvard University in the 19th century. One of the professors had a problem to conduct a lecture to many people, so he started to think of the same design of the hemisphere. This is the Muslim did it, and then the Orthodox Church took the same design from them. Okay, so we have many others inventions. The last one. Do you have any engineers here? Any engineers? You engineers. Okay. Do we produce cars, vehicles? No. Okay. No. What's the most sophisticated part of the engine? The know-how of the engine. The know-how. سر الاختراع. The motor. The engine itself. Okay, of the car. The engine itself. The piston and the crank. The most important concept, the basic concept of the engine, which we don't know, one Muslim did it, Al-Jazri, the one who invented the humanoid robots. It was the main idea that they took it is how to transform the sliding motions into a rotation motion. And this is the basic knowledge of any combustion engine in your entire life. In the motorcycles, in the cars, in the NASA shuttles, and whatever. This has been done. This is a work of a Muslim called Al-Jazri. Okay, so you have to be reinforced with this kind of knowledge. Okay, you have to practice yourself how to say it in 3 or 4 or 5 minutes to people, because this is the most kind of meetings that you have in the bus, in the flight, or whatever. So we will proceed in this in the next time, inshallah. Okay, and I will leave the
يعني هو الموضوع طبعا يعني جزاك الله خيرا عليه، وهو فعلا مهم قوي لينا احنا حتى عشان يعني نفسيا كده هتفرق معانا، زائد طبعا ان دي في الدسكشن مهمه قوي ان انا ابدا اهلايت الحاجات دي. فبالتالي احنا محتاجين ان احنا نحاول نوجد اللي هي الكونتريبيوشنز ديت موجوده مكتوبه ايه الحاجات بالظبط، ونقرا فيها اكتر ونعمل فيها زي حاجه براكتيكال. يعني انت لو انت المره الجايه ان شاء الله باذن الله مثلا.
So would I propose the assignment? Would I?
Yes.
Would I propose? Can each one of you, because this is the most meetings that I met foreigners in my life, whether in the bus, whether walking in the park, whether meeting. I have just the 3 or 5 minutes. Whether I use it to introduce me to the girl, or to say to her something beneficial. Whether to use it to say to the guy, hey, let's go to somewhere, or to use something beneficial. So try to squeeze some of the main contributions of the Muslims, okay, in the science, for instance, and try to introduce it to us in just 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Can you?
You can prepare also a topic, and everyone brings the topic, and maybe the best topic.
The guy said the Sunni Muslims are lazy still.
Maybe the best topic can win a prize.
Yeah. It's his proposal. He will pay for the prize.
Yes.
Okay. Just who can prepare this 3 minutes discussion with people. Okay. Thank you very much.
طيب